Welcome back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I don't know if that was a glitch, but here we are. My name is Adrian, and I'm with Michael Zuber, the one and only Michael Zuber. Guys, I've decided to take over the channel today, take over our little segment, and I have some selfish questions about what's going on in the world because, well, I got to be very transparent. I'm very disconnected with what's going on. But what we know is that there was a ceasefire, and with Iran, you guys all know there's some issues with Iran in the United States, and apparently there's a ceasefire. And you guys, when I know like nothing about any of this, I mean nothing. So I'm kind of glad we're doing this, Zuber, because it gives me some selfish knowledge. So what does this mean? How does this impact us? What does this look like unraveling?
Well, the first thing I want to highlight is I wish more people were like you. And I mean that entirely. I wish more people were not caught up in the day-to-day, hour-to-hour, tweet-to-tweet Iran-U.S. conflict. Your life would probably be better for it. You would be able to focus on your family, your business. You wouldn't allow scary headlines to derail you. So first and foremost, I love the fact that you don't know, a ton about this. And again, I really do mean I wish more people were like that. Just stay disconnected.
I agree.
But what I will tell you is there is a ceasefire, right? Coming up to that moment, there was a threat of, horrific bombing raids that now appears to be off the table. That would have changed the world landscape should that have happened. That's not happening, thankfully. Ceasefire in place for a couple weeks. Most importantly is the market is believing that the Strait of Hormuz is open. Why is that important? Or how do I know that? Well, oil went from 115 to 95.
Oh, wow.
Just like that. $20.
Wow.
And not that $95 is cheap, but the impact of $95 oil versus 115 is game changing.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, on a big scale.
On a big scale. Across, just Delta today took a $300 billion charge for oil or fuel or whatever it was. Again, this was starting to change economies. So the first thing to understand is it's in place. I would call it a fragile ceasefire because, again, you've got multiple parties involved. You got the U.S., Iran, obviously, but also Israel. And, we just need to hope it sticks because the other way is it doesn't get better from here. But what's interesting for us as real estate investors is two things. One, oil going down means gas gets cheaper. That's just how the math works.
Yeah.
And we were
California.
Yeah, good. What are you paying in Orange County? Like $8 or something crazy?
It's $7. Yeah.
That's nuts.
$9.50 for diesel.
Wow. That's not good. That's not good.
Thank you, Gavin. Average 5 miles to the gallon. One of them.
The other might need a new car.
The other one averages 8 miles to the gallon. It's not okay.
This is not good. Yeah. So, why is that important? Because again, we saw it in today's weekly mortgage demand. Consumers are pulling back, and you're probably seeing it in real estate. Again, buyers disappear. Buyers get scared. Consumers get scared. War is scary. AI is scary. And when in doubt, consumers pull back. And now that we have a ceasefire, not only do we see oil fall, but we're starting to see the 10-year treasury fall. Why is that important? Because that's what, mortgage rates are on. You and I talking February 26th, right before this all began, mortgage rates were 5.99, 5.98, right? The spring selling season was ready to get rocking and rolling. Right. Then, this starts and it's, goes until April, and consumers are clearly pulling back. If this sticks and if this holds and rates do what they might do, and they might rush back to 6% and maybe high fives, it might be enough to save the spring selling season. Because again, you'll see your $7 gas go to $6, go to hopefully, sub 6.
Right.
But you never know with California's governor, Gavin.
Yeah,
who knows? That's a different story.
Right.
But gas is that constant reminder, right? Every week you fill up, or in your case, every other day. And, it's just a constant reminder that stuff's more expensive. So you pull back.
Right.
So this ceasefire, it's going to have a global impact.
Yeah.
And we just need to hope it sticks.
So with that, hope it sticks, because I saw something about a 2 week. They have 2 weeks, and it looks like Iran sent over what appears to be as like a proposal.
Yeah, 10-point plan. Yeah.
What does that look like in 2 weeks? So pretty much it's open. It's open for 2 weeks. Could things get worse in 2 weeks? Is that
Absolutely?
possible?
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. This 10-point plan, we had a 15-point plan. Basically, I think what the sticking points are going to be is I believe Iran wants to control the strait and probably charge a toll or a fee to let ships pass. And that's going to be game changing, because that didn't exist before this war. Now, Iran's going to basically say something like, this is going to be, repatriation for all the destruction, right? You're going to help us rebuild our country. It'll be interesting to see if the U.S. agrees to that, because again, that's inflationary. That's a fee.
Right.
Frankly, I would see it as a failure if the Strait of Hormuz isn't open like it was before the war. If it's open, but with a toll, like you got to pay $1 a barrel or whatever it is to go through, I don't know how that's seen as a victory. That seems like a defeat to me.
Yeah.
So again, but that's part of the negotiation. It's going to be very tenuous. But hey, 2 weeks of peace or ceasefire is good. I think we need to hope it sticks. But don't get it twisted. Israel could come out of nowhere and launch a massive attack, and this thing could just blow up, tomorrow, this ceasefire, and it could be over tomorrow. That's why I called it fragile, because it's stuck together with, glue and duct tape. I don't think anybody has faith in any of the parties.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's kind of
like
all over
watching the other guy going, what are you going to do? Right.
Right.
There's no trust.
No, at all. I did see, it was it Ricky Carew who just made a video saying that the most recent reports on housing, where we didn't see a drop off like we would have saw a drop off. The market wasn't strong, right? And I haven't looked at all the numbers, so I don't know the. I haven't, and I need. I
saw that post, so I know what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yeah. So it appears to be as if we're still I don't want to say we're doing great, but the transaction numbers they're not low, but we're still kind of median, right? We're still kind of hovering in the middle.
Well, what I would say to that, I think Ricky Cruz's point, and again, Ricky comes on the channel once a month usually, was that the pending home sales this year were up year on year, which is very interesting.
Right.
But you got to remember, we're comparing to perhaps the worst time on record, because this was after Trump's tariff tantrum last year.
Right.
But again, he is absolutely right. Even with 6.5% mortgage rates, our transactions are up year on year, which is interesting because like what Ricky and I were talking about a month ago, right? Ricky and I talked the day before this thing started, and we were both like, this thing's going to rip, because rates were 5.99 and open houses had lines again and all of those things. And then of course, the war flipped the table over and changed everything. But he's still right? Even at 6.5%, transactions year to year are up, which I think would surprise a lot of people, but he's right.
Most definitely. And do you see that as just people waiting and finally just giving up on patience?
No, I think it's just the fact that, I think what it really is, Adrian, is the fact that we're at the bottom of transactions. Life happens. Yeah. Death, divorce, job transfer. We're not going to ever do zero transactions.
Right.
I think we're just, 4 million is like the bare minimum, right? We're not going to go to 3 million.
Right.
Right. Because just life happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's the sign. Yeah. But we also learned that sub 6 brings all these people off the sidelines.
Right.
And again, if this ceasefire sticks and there's a successful negotiation in 2 weeks and both parties can claim victory, like I'm sure they will, we could get back to sub 6 in a couple of months, probably.
To imagine what the market would look like at low 5s.
Dude, low 5s? I mean, let's just call it 5 just for a minute.
Yeah.
So sub 6 brings demand. It doesn't bring a lot of supply.
Right.
You go to 5 flat, I think not only do you get a lot of demand, but you actually get more supply.
Absolutely.
And that's a good thing. Because again, what you have is you got a lot of people at 3.5 and 3.8 and 3.1, but they've been stuck in this home that was their entry level home, and they had an extra kid, and their job transfer, and now they're commuting 45 minutes, and it used to be 5 minutes. I think there's a lot of people stuck with that payment shock. You get to 5, it gets a lot easier to justify an extra percent. Like, I'll give up my 3.8 for a 5 to have one extra bedroom, or to be 20 minutes closer to mom and dad, or whatever it is.
100%.
5 is magic. Like, you get a 4.99, dude, lock the doors. It's going to get bananas.
Yeah, that would be awesome. What would need to take for that to happen? I mean, is that just all internal? Is that just government, Zuber? Is that, do we have any
you could get there a couple of different ways. Some good, some bad. Like, the negative is you could have a nasty recession, right? This war could kick off inflation. That inflation could be demand destructive. We could have weekly unemployment go from 208 to 408, right? That would just be a recession. Then what happens? We already know what the Fed does. They come in and slash rates, and they buy mortgage bonds, and you could get to 5. You can get to 4.99, but that's the negative route. The positive route is we bring in inflation expectations. We have productivity gains likely from AI. Inflation comes down to sub 2%, and the Fed cuts. So there's really 2 avenues. We can either grow and have productivity, which is kind of the positive route, where unemployment never gets above 5, right? It always stays, in the 4s. Or we have an unemployment shoot to 7.5 or 8. I think both avenues could get us to sub 5.
That would be interesting. That'd be very interesting to see and how that plays out. Because I know that was, if I recall correctly, not quoting anything, but if I recall correctly, the whole plan was to have rates in the I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe they called it. Didn't they say they were trying to get rates sub 5?
Yeah, I mean, President Trump has been very clear, right? He wants mortgage rates sub 5 for sure. Right. Whether he said that explicitly, or Scott Bessent, or any of these folks, very clear that President Trump, as a real estate guy, let's never forget that, wants lower mortgage rates, because he knows that that's a key to the economy, right? He's got to get the housing market out of a depression. And at 4 million transactions, we're in a depression.
Well, and then that's my next question to you. Knowing the ego he has, knowing the fact that he is in housing, that is his specialty, right? I don't see him. I mean, it would be safe to say that he's going to, that he has to prove his ego right. He's not going to let that fall. Am I correct? Am I wrong? Do you see?
I cannot imagine an environment where President Trump would want the housing market to crack under his watch.
No, I don't see that happening at all.
I couldn't imagine.
No.
Yeah.
Not from him.
No. He will pull every lever, probably pull it multiple times to do anything he can. But let's not forget it twisted. He probably doesn't want housing to explode higher either. We already have an affordability problem. He just wants the transaction engine, because that's what people don't get. Even if prices stay flat, but we have transactions go up 20%, we go from 4 million to 4.8. That's billions of more dollars circulating in the economy: painting, contracting, closing, appraisers, roofers, windows, blah, 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 blah. Even if, because again, we had all our appreciation. Let's just keep that flat. But he is focused on getting that transaction engine going.
Right. And that was the whole thing when he talked about institutional buyers, and that made sense. So let's pull back to the Iran situation real fast. And I do got a question, because again, being very naive with the whole thing. From my understandings, this has been going on forever, right? And it appears that a lot of presidents have said they were going to, but yet never actually did. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah. So for 47 years, Iran is basically saying death to America, right? Versions of that. Maybe not always explicitly, but hell of a lot of time explicitly. And we've had a lot of presidents speak and say, like, we're going to get them, or versions of that. We've had some presidents try to send them money, right? Try to buy peace, which I always thought was crazy, but it happened multiple times. But no, President Trump was the guy that said enough's enough, and, took the head off the snake. Now you got to deal with the mess. And there's a big mess because, there will be some other leader and there'll be factions, and you have no idea if the new guy is going to be worse than the old guy.
Right.
But yeah, he did something that probably the last 6 presidents, including himself, let's not forget he was number 45 as well.
True.
Didn't do. It's true.
Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. I see that. And I'm going to go back to the first comment you made after I opened with saying, if only more people would care less. And I don't want to say care less. Hold on. Let me replace my words. Maybe not put so much focus on it, because every post I see, I had to get off social media. That's probably the fog I had this morning, is every post I saw was of like them speaking of the situation. And I just wonder, okay, we talked about what would happen if rates go to sub 5 or, low 5s. What would happen if you stopped just kind of paying attention to everything that was going on and you just paid attention to your business and you doubled
your
down?
Business, your health, your family, folks. That's why I loved your opening. The fact that you're naive to this. I mean, if I could wish something on my entire audience, is them to erase the Iran conflict, right? At this point, just, go focus on you, your family, your job, your health. Go make some memories. Stop doom scrolling, waiting for the next tweet to just irk you and raise your cortisol. This is not healthy. So I agree. Yeah.
I saw one of a known real estate entrepreneur just go off on a post. And I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we like? Let's change the focus. You guys remember, Tony said this. I'll never forget it. Where focus goes, energy flows. If we're focused on the wrong ish, we're going to deliver our energy there and you ain't going to get anything in return. So if anything, you're going to get a bunch of hateful comments and family members that stop talking to you. And I just don't see that as a win.
Amen. Well, Adrian, I appreciate you coming back every week. Thank you for doing this, asking questions. And again, folks, block this feed, block the words. Just, go on, focus with your life, be happier, make some memories, see your family. Where can they find you, Adrian?
Guys, catch me on Instagram at Adrian Hernandez. And there's an app called Opal, OPAL, I want to say that is. And it blocks all your apps. So it's actually a great app. I use it, and it blocks like my Instagram, my Facebook. It blocks everything all day. So if I try to get on, I can't. So if we have a trouble, because I know I needed it, I kept going and clicking on it, right?
Yeah.
I still do it till this day. I'll get on and then I'm like, oh shit, it's blocked. And then I got to put my phone down, right? But just some sort of barrier to help you guys. It always helps.
There you go. Adrian, you're amazing. Take care.
Bye. Let's go.